Hello and welcome to Afternoon Tea with Karen. I haven't checked on Melbourne Uni for a while, so let's go.
Could you briefly talk about the solidarity encampment at the University of Melbourne and the sit-in at Mahmood's Hall, and I guess what are some of the wins that have been achieved so far?
Yeah. So we started the Solidarity Encampment on the 25th of April. So that was set up on South Lawn, and that was sort of in place for about 3 weeks. And in that 3 weeks, we saw like a huge amount of growth, of support. Community really got behind us in that time. We had teach-ins and food being brought by community. Like it was a really beautiful activist space. And I guess the goal of the encampment was to pressure the university to cut their ties with weapons manufacturers, particularly those that were involved in the genocide in Gaza. So the encampment was happening for about 3 weeks, and then we had a rally, and an autonomous group of students decided to start a sit-in in formerly Arts West, Mahmoud's Hall, renaming that building to Mahmoud's Hall, and then beginning a sit-in. So that went for about a week. Where people, had their tents and marquees inside, just in like the foyer and open spaces on the ground floor. The message was still the same, to cut ties with weapons manufacturers. But in the time that we were sort of on the lawn, we didn't really receive, much of a response or much engagement from the university, in that respect. So this was just a way of drawing even more attention to the issue and, letting the university know that we're serious about wanting these changes. After the week of the sit-in, so during the sit-in, negotiations were sort of ongoing with the university, and they intensified. And then at the end of the week, we agreed to disclosure. So that meant that the university was going to disclose all of their ties to weapons manufacturers, particularly those research collaborations and partnerships. So that was agreed on in exchange for packing up the sit-in and leaving the building. So we did that, and then the university began their disclosure. I think it was on the 30th of June. So they started to disclose in more detail their weapons ties to various weapons manufacturers and also to the Department of Defense, the US Department of Defense. So yeah, that was a major win. It's definitely step one of a few. So the ultimate goal is to get the university to divest from those companies, but I guess we have to know the extent of their involvement to then try and get them to divest.
100%. And I think it's important to celebrate the small wins along the way as well. But I guess the university has responded by cracking down on students, and they've threatened, I think it's 21 students with expulsion or other disciplinary measures. Could you talk a bit about what these measures are and I guess how students are responding to this crackdown?
Yeah, so the penalties range from a caution all the way through to suspension and termination, and quite a few in the middle that sort of affect our enrolment. So yeah, it was 21 students. We're quite surprised about how heavy-handed the university has been, particularly since we were in ongoing negotiations, in good faith with the university. We came to that agreement. It was a mutual agreement. So we're surprised that the university, I guess they're trying to, it seems like they're using these misconduct notices to punish the students for getting the university to agree to the disclosure, which is quite a strange thing to do, in my opinion.
Mm.
Um, and yeah, there are only about 21 students that were issued the misconduct notices, but at any one time in the building, there were probably between 70 to 100 people. So they've selected people, I think, to try and make an example, try to deter people from doing the same thing later on. So yeah, I guess the students have been quite surprised and not surprised at the same time. I guess surprised in terms of the methods and the way that it's come about, but not surprised in that, we knew that the university was not happy with us being there. And yeah, we had a rally on the first day of the hearings, which was last Wednesday, had a lot of community support in that. And yeah, I've just been trying to advocate for ourselves the best that we can with the university.
Yeah, and something that's kind of come out is that the university has been employing kind of surveillance strategies on students, particularly obviously the students who are being threatened with the disciplinary measures. So could you talk a little bit about this surveillance and what kind of stuff they've been doing?
Yeah, so when we all received the notices, we got a few documents attached to an email. One of those documents had CCTV footage, like stills of each of us, as well as Wi-Fi tracking location. So essentially, they've taken like stills from CCTV, and then also they've been able to identify exactly where particular students have been at what time, in which building, on what level, and they've attached those sort of Wi-Fi pings to those documents. So yeah, we were really surprised that they sort of took those measures to identify particular students. There were security guards at the entrances of the building for a period of time that were taking people's identification. So the security guards already had identification of people that had willingly given their details, but the university chose to, use these like tracking and surveillance methods to find particular students. And yeah, I guess it's pretty shocking as well because in 2016, the university, when they adopted their new Wi-Fi network, they said basically we're just using this Wi-Fi to identify dots on a page and just to identify like traffic throughout the university. But
Yeah.
we're not breaching privacy because we can't identify the students. But obviously, the university has lied, so you can see the location is directly attached to like a student ID that has been then used to identify a student. So yeah, that's been pretty shocking. We didn't expect the university to go to those lengths, but they have, and it's opened up a whole new conversation about the way universities are using student data. People are really hesitant to. I know I'm really hesitant to connect to the university Wi-Fi, and I'm just very cautious now when I'm on campus. So yeah, it's been pretty surprising actually.
Yeah, and I've seen some comparisons drawn, obviously not to the same scale, but like the surveillance of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank, and now surveillance being employed on students at Australian universities is pretty chilling.
Yeah, we
Um,
have one of the students who's receiving misconduct. She's actually from Palestine, and she, had a really hard time like grappling with that because, she'd left Palestine, come here to study. She'd left a, highly surveilled occupation state, and now she's come here, and the same sort of technologies are being used on her when she's protesting to try and, get the university to divest from those companies that are being, that are involved in the killing of her own people. So that was quite difficult for her to get her head around. And also, we don't know what technology is being used, like which companies are being used. It would be pretty ironic if those companies were the same companies we're trying to get them to divest from, but we don't know exactly which tech's being used.
I wonder if she's talking about Dana. Uni Melbourne for Palestine. Now, these clips are a bit on the quiet side, hence the volume's all cranked down low, as I haven't got the equipment to crank up. So let's check out a little bit of Dana.
Hi everyone, my name is Dana Shair. I genuinely came unprepared today because it's really hard to kind of decide where to start when you're talking about your life and about your people. So I'm just gonna start. I'm doing my master's degree here at the University of Melbourne, doing international relations and politics. And as a Palestinian, studying politics in Western University, it's really like you can see and you can feel and you can experience the Eurocentric narrative and the bias that even academia has against you as a Palestinian. So I did my undergrad in Palestine. I lived my whole life in Palestine. I was born and raised there. And as a university student back home in Palestine as well, studying while you're being colonized, actively colonized and under occupation is not easy. It affects every single aspect of your life. The tiniest, most unimportant details that you can think of are affected by the Israeli Zionist colonialism. Of your land, of your people, of your culture, the theft, everything. It wasn't easy for us to go to universities or to afford paying tuition, but Palestinians are very resilient, so we are the most educated people in the Middle East and one of the most educated on the planet.
And that'll do. I've done a celebrity special on Dana already, so I want to find out about the guy in the red t-shirt. What's he got to say?
Thanks so much. Yeah, as was said, my name's Lachlan Batchelor. I work for Union Aid Abroad, AFIDA, which is the aid organisation of the union movement. And as an organisation that has one foot in the aid sector and one foot in the union movement, and kind of proud to call ourselves part of the union movement, I guess that's, I think, what I can provide today, talk about today, is how the union movement and how the aid sector are responding and expressing our solidarity with the people of Palestine. But let me first start off by saying thanks to the NTEU, both the NTEU for Palestine and the Melbourne Uni branch, for inviting me here today. I'm myself a former academic worker and a former academic union activist. So because of that, I have a really deep appreciation for the value of and the importance of organised labour in higher education. And that, I think, it's really important for me to say that up front, because it's the union at the university is not just about empowering workers to take on the increasingly bizarre neoliberalisation of employment in the university sector, but it's about also empowering workers to fight for academic freedoms, and it's the tool by which we give workers the ability to put on events like today. So I think that that's a really important thing for me to say up front, is that the union here is doing a really important job, and that history of fighting for the freedom of political expression on campus includes all of the people here today. It includes people before us as well, and it is the reason why we're able to continue to do this work. And there is, of course, significant pressure that we are forced to withstand in that fight. And it's important that we do withstand that pressure, and we are able to express our resolute and unwavering solidarity with the people of Palestine, the people in Gaza, the workers in the West Bank who are being denied an entry permit to complete day labouring jobs, the only means many people in the West Bank have to survive, and Palestinians indeed here today and throughout Australia and throughout the world. It's a global issue, an issue of global justice that we find ourselves at the forefront of today. And as a non-Palestinian, I'm going to spend most of my time today giving a platform to our partners in Palestine. I want to read some messages that we've been given by our partner on the ground. So I'll progress to that. But as a former history student, allow me a moment to put this in some historical context, particularly for the union movement, which has a long history of international solidarity and also a history of solidarity with Palestine. That kind of history perhaps really kind of came to the fore in the 1970s, when another higher education union, the Australian Union of Students, took one of the first pro-Palestine stances and invited Ali Kazak from the PLO to Australia and funded his trip in the 1970s. And it continued with the 13 pledge unions in Melbourne, who funded the monthly newsletter Free Palestine that was published for a decade out of our very own trades hall. So that's a history that we're all a part of as unionists, and it's a history that I'm very proud of as well.
Well, that was interesting. Sorry about my audio or lack of pizzazz with my audio, and see you later. Bye.